Hey guys, where is the most stable branch for @script? Or any definition of stable you care to provide.
In the Angular repository. So @script is really just a transpilation task to transpiler right now, plus specification that we wrote. There is not much more to that than that.
So you said that's in Angular/Angular inside. Okay.
And actually you can all of the @script features, which is annotations, TypeScript types, and class fields. It's all in the Tracer repository. So if you just install Tracer from npm, you get all of that. You just need to pass the right configuration.
Did -- annotations get merged in?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Actually, in the latest version of Tracer, you can just pass --@script, and it will enable all the @script features.
Sweet.
And yeah, as Igor was saying, there's a repo Angular/@script playground, which kind of shows you the overall setup. You can probably use it to play with it, or maybe clone it and start a project from it.
Yeah, so I was actually incorrect. The code is in Tracer, not in Angular. Angular is how we use it, but the actual code is in Tracer repository. It's merged.
Yes, I'm going through test-driven development, and I'm suffering a lot. Are there any plans to improve the support of IDEs or Visual Studio or Sublime to improve the support on TDD to help a little bit more?
Yes. Angular 2 is a big reason why we're making some of the changes we're making, because we want to be able to provide.
I'm having trouble hearing you, and I'm in the first row.
So, hopefully it's going to be better now. Sorry. Okay. So Angular 2 is, the many changes we're making in Angular 2 is so that we can provide you with better tooling. Many of the changes are geared towards ability to statically analyze templates, statically analyze code, give you hints, warnings, and with this comes also tooling support, click-through, better auto-completion, that kind of stuff. We had guys from TypeScript visit us about a month ago, and we recorded a TypeScript talk that they gave in Google. And in that talk, you can pretty much see, how good tooling you can get once you understand the code better. You can statically analyze it, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. So in Angular 1, I think it's actually amazing for me how good of a support there is in WebStorm and NetBeans, given how hard it is to analyze Angular templates and expressions. But they've done an amazing job, and we think that in Angular 2 it can be way better still.
Also, you said you're struggling with testing. That's kind of how it is. You have to get through it, and then you'll love it. But that's kind of why we are here today. Like, if you have your laptop and you have some project that you're working on, maybe I can help you, like, I don't know, set it up or see what kind of issues you're running into.
Next question.
Hey guys, what's up? So I had some time to play around with Protractor like 6 months ago, but between my current heavy investment in Angular Scenario and the fact that NG Scenario and Karma seem to be a better fit for my use case, I don't foresee myself moving over to Protractor for at least another year or so. Are there any plans to maintain NG Scenario, and if not, can I do it?
Absolutely. In fact, I think we're gonna keep maintaining NG Scenario and the Karma plugin the same way we've been maintaining it for the last 2 years, which is basically nothing. So
Awesome.
I think it's all good.
Also, thanks for Karma, by the way, Voight.
No, you can, if you're interested in maintaining the plugin or the scenario, we should definitely talk.
All right,
That sounds great.
I'll shoot you a tweet or something.
Well, find me after this Q&A.
How's it going? So yeah, I saw this, I think it was this week, you guys announced 1.4 already. I think something for like a March release date around like NG conf time. Looked at the changelog, there was some stuff. The big feature, I guess, is the router, right? So could you guys maybe talk a little bit about 1.4, the router, and anything else you want to touch on?
Sure, I can take this one. So 1.4 is just the next step in 1x. We are building 1x and 2.0 in parallel. We have enough people interested in developing bot that it makes sense, and it's great. I like that this is how things are going. With 1.4, there are some smaller features as well as some bigger features. I know that there are improvements in forms and like smaller things, usability issues, and that require breaking changes in order for them to be fixed. Just small breaking changes, like we're not talking about major refactoring or anything like that. And the big features are internationalization, routing, and one more. I don't know, something else. So the router, we have pretty good baseline that we built for Angular 2, and we found a way to backport it to Angular 1x. We have some first demos. If you follow our Twitter or Google Plus feed, you have links to see what it looks like, and you can provide feedback. We're hoping that this is going to be completed by March, by NGCon. Yeah, the meeting from 1.4 is public, and it's part of the blog post. So if you want to know, how we arrived at the decision, which things we care about and which things we don't care about, there's like hour and a half of boring discussion. Or maybe interesting for you, I don't know. I'm not going to watch it. So you can check it out.
Okay. I was wondering if the Polymer project has had any influence on the direction of Angular 2.0, or if it's a side thing that's totally unrelated.
It is related. They confirmed that many things we did were right things to do, so that's good. We talked to the guys. We have good technical discussions. Like we have slightly different goals. The primary focus is to be testbed for Chrome team and give feedback on APIs and web standards. Our primary goal is to make building web applications easier and better and faster. So slightly different priorities. And we talk, Angular 2 web components are one of the main themes, so interoperability is going to be pretty good. Do you have any specific questions?
No, I do not have a specific question, really. I was just curious if there was going to be any overlap at all, because both are, like you say, they both tend to do different things. I was just wondering if there's going to be a connection at all.
So for us, it's the good thing is that we have a set of components that we can test against and see, how good of an interoperability we'll have with web components, which is great. Other questions?
Yeah, hi. in terms of accessibility support, actually, big corporations are now pushing the accessibility implementation. Do you have any plan on like implementing more? I saw the NG area, extension actually. Do you have any plan on extending that?
Yeah. So the NG area was just the first step towards better accessibility in Angular. We're building Angular Material, which is a set of components and CSS framework for building applications with Angular based on Google Material Design, which is a UX specification. And all of these components that we're building are accessible by default. And from what I heard from people who are experts in this field, because I'm not, we're doing really well. And accessibility is big focus for material design, but also one project that I'm pushing for is enable accessibility testing using Protractor. So I think with Protractor and some other projects, we have enough pieces together that we should be able to reuse existing end-to-end tests for accessibility auditing. And basically the way this would work is you just run your existing end-to-end test that you wrote for testing your business logic and testing your application wiring. As that test exercises the application, we'll just audit the application and all the states it is in. And at the end, we can give you a score and tell you, in this state, there are issues with accessibility, you could do better. It's just something that is starting at very early stages, but I personally feel that until we have good tooling that can be part of the development lifecycle and can be executed on the CI server, it's going to be hard for non-experts in this field to do the right thing. Because if you at NG Europe, which was a conference in October, there was a pretty good accessibility talk, and one of the things that I noticed that Marcy, the presenter, mentioned was that often by trying to do the right thing, you can make things actually worse. And if you don't have tools that tell you that you're on the right path, you might be actually making things worse for your clients or for your users. So we need better tooling, and that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Are you guys working with the community?
Can you speak to the microphone, please?
Are you guys working with the community for tools like PhoneGap, Cordova, Ionic, in terms of you providing any support, or you involved in those projects at all?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if everybody heard, but the question was, do we work with other projects like Ionic, PhoneGap, Cordova, and making sure that things work better or work well with Angular? The answer is yes. We definitely work with Ionic. Ionic guys are behind Angular Material, so we have very good relationships with them, and we had several discussions about animations and touch, and how the framework could help them do less or make better components. So we're working with that, and with Angular 2, mobile is a big focus. So we're going to be working more closely with Cordova and PhoneGap as well.
Thank you.
I have a question here first.
Thank you. I don't know if this is too specific a question, but it's just something that came up recently in one of my projects. But I'm trying to basically create a form with a file upload, and basically you can't just tie to an NG model like other form inputs. And I just noticed there's like a dozen different ways to do this. I was wondering why something so common isn't built into the library, and what you would suggest.
This is Tobias's favorite topic, so I'll let him answer.
All right. So file upload. Maybe you remember that. If you want to do it in a single page app, you have to use HTML5. You have to use file objects and blobs to do the upload, and all the browsers don't support this. So we just didn't support it in the older versions of Angular because it didn't make sense. Now we could, but this would be a breaking change, right? So some people, I think if you do ng model on a file input, you get actually the file name, as far as I know. So I don't know if some people rely on it.
So yeah, it's slightly more complicated. Really, if we were to just support the browsers that have the proper APIs, then we could do okay job. But there are browsers that don't support the APIs that we still support, and now the application is going to work in some browsers and it's not going to work in other browsers, and it's confusing. It's one thing we're debating, like what's worse. And the alternative is just use third-party solution that is known to work. And if we try to do it and we did a lame job, then we would actually make it difficult for third parties to fix it properly. So that's why there's like this hesitation to go into the space. If the browser APIs were better, we would definitely take it on in the core. And maybe through some polyfills or something, we could do something. I don't know. If you care a lot about it, we can have a discussion after the Q&A.
Hi. I'm curious if there's any guidance in the area of memory. A lot of when I go from route to route, I seem to be building a heap of memory, and I'm doing profiles. I go to the task manager, and I don't seem to get everything back from the state it was, when I went from one route to another. I've been doing some reading, and I was just wondering if there's a good article or if you have guidance in this area.
I can take this one. So it definitely sounds like you have a memory leak issue. I don't think it's coming from Angular because if it was something as basic as just changing routes, we would have noticed and it would be fixed already. It might be some third-party component. It might be your code. The best way to track this down is to figure out what is being leaked. There is a technique called three snapshot technique. You can just Google it, and using Chrome's heap profiler, you can actually track down, what is being leaked. And once you know what is being leaked, then you can find where it's leaking from. And once you find that, then you can fix it. So memory leaks are a very annoying problem. Angular kind of tries to shield you from that because the way we help you structure your application, most typically you don't need to worry about memory management. The times when you do need to worry about memory management is when you're dealing with DOM and you're attaching stuff to the DOM yourself, some data objects, or usually if you hold on to references to DOM objects in some private cache or something like that. But unless you're not doing anything like this, you typically don't have problems. But it's...
So you could check your jQuery version. So if you use Angular 1.3, you should use jQuery 2.1 or above. That's the version of jQuery we directly support. If you use a jQuery version that's too old, I think someone used 1.7. And in your template, if you have a text node, like you have a root element and a text node afterwards, then you get into memory leak problems. So you could check your jQuery version.
Do you have your project here? Shame, we could try to fix it.
I didn't know you were going to be here.
Oh.
Hi. So I was wondering if you could talk more about like server-side support and running Angular in the server, if that's going to be available in 2.0, if it is, or if it's not, why not?
All right, server-side support. So there are different ways you can do server-side support, right? So one thing you could do is you could pre-compile templates. Would be one idea, so that when the template reaches the client side, we already know where the directives are and are faster in instantiation. So we're actually looking into this, but it's a trade-off, because if you precompile this, then your template gets bigger. You add more data to it. So then you trade off time versus network size, which in the end is also just time that you need for transmitting. So in 2.0, we're building benchmarks, so we're benchmarking this and see what effect this has. So that's one idea. There are other crazier ideas. So one thing is Angular has those views, right? And we're diffing our model objects. And one idea would be to say, well, we could actually split this apart. So you have your model objects and dirty checking and all your logic on the one side, and the view and DOM manipulation on the other side. And then you could either run this in a web worker, your application, or if you're really crazy, you run it on the server. And then you've got a round-trip application, as you used to, but that's just crazy ideas. We don't know if we want to do this or not, but like it could be possible with the architecture of 2.0. But
thanks.
Hi, I've been working with web frameworks for over 10 years, and I've seen them. I've been working with web frameworks in different languages for over 10 years, and I've seen them succeed and fail in different ways. I've read that you had an airplay blog and transcript, and I've read what you had to say in that about the upgrade path and so forth, how long you're going to maintain 1.3. Other projects have encountered the same problem. I think that your decision to really sort of rethink all of Angular in 2.0 is really good. And Drupal, which is a really good content management system in PHP, did basically the same thing and threw away core, which was a bunch of procedural PHP, and adopted Symfony, a completely independent library that uses best practices. So they're really rebuilding Drupal on top of PHP, which is Symfony. But the problem is it forked the community. And I think that they could have avoided it if they had done what Ubuntu did, which is to switch from a 2-year release cycle to a 5-year release cycle. So they just said, we're going to support our old version for 5 years. And you can count on us doing that if there's people who want to have support. So that this whole question of, what should I build on 1.3 or 1.2 or 2 just doesn't have to be a big deal. But I really approve myself of the idea of rethinking it very seriously, but it creates problems for a lot of people too.
I think the difference between pace of operating system innovation and client-side JavaScript web innovation is quite different. And also, like, Ubuntu is a different kind of project. It's based on the model where people pay for support. We don't charge anybody for support, even though we do a ton of support on GitHub or even outside of GitHub. So I don't think that the comparison is quite fair. And I understand that there is a risk of forking the community. We're trying our best to avoid it by being very transparent about what we are doing, why are we doing it, and taking feedback on, what could we do better. There are many things that it's easy for us to miss, and you guys can see it easily and bring to our attention. So we're trying really hard to listen to what you have to say. But honestly, I think that Angular 1 has been around for 5 years already. It's built around the infrastructure that is 5 years old, or design that is 5 years old. And it is time for something newer, something that leverages the latest APIs in the browser, leverages ES6, modern JavaScript syntax, and module system, package manager, like things that have been more, either that were created or that got mature over the last 5 years that we didn't have when we started with Angular 5 years ago. So I think for this reason, I think it's important for us to think forward and see, what is the best Angular that we can build with today's technologies for tomorrow's applications. And that's why we are doing what we are doing. And honestly, if we are not going to do it, somebody else will. And then people will migrate to some other solution, and they're just going to complain less because they will still have to go through migration nobody's going to create a migration plan for them, which is something we plan to do. So I think it's better for us to just think forward, do the best we can, and then help people migrate. And as I said, 1x, there is still a lot of features planned for 1x. There is a dedicated team around 1x, so it's not like 1x is dead. That's far away from true.
I'm a little new to Angular, so this might be a little basic, but if I have an API I'm communicating with that requires authentication, I'm communicating with it from a couple different services. Is there a way to sort of globally catch like a 401 return so I can relog in the user? Like, is there a way to sort of wrap HTTP or something that can...
Yes, HTTP supports interceptors. And you can build a global interceptor that will just intercept every single HTTP in the application, will catch any authentication errors, will relog in, and it can even resume the original HTTP request, so you can pretty smoothly just continue where you left off after login.
Hi. So I used Angular about 5 months, and I think some of the documentation is really good, some is really poor. Is there anything that we can get the documentation better for the next couple versions?
Can you say again? Sorry.
Documentation.
The documentation for 1.3, parts are bad and parts are good?
Yeah, some is really bad and some is really good.
Okay,
so
what are you planning for the next version?
So, if you can help us identify the really bad parts and even help us improve them, we'll be grateful. Each page has this improve this page button. You can click on it. You can, make changes you want, and we will like review every week. Review dozens of documentation PRs, and like pretty much every day there is some documentation update that happens.
So for 2.0, there's one more thing. In 2.0, we would like to add static typing, or types in general, right? And then our doc generator is able to go over the source code and identify the places that needs to be documented. So that's the first step, right? So the thing in the documentation is the right thing, and you don't have things in there that are not accurate, so you at least know the methods are in there and the parameters are there. Still needs to have a good description and a good guide to use it, but I think that's something that will help.
So in general, do you find the issues to be like conceptual issues or just like missing API documentation? Because I think we're doing pretty well on APIs. It's really the things that tie things together that is not as well documented in some cases as it should be.
For example, the incentives could be probably done better. I mean, it took a while to get to understand what's going on and what purposes and how. I mean, some of the examples is unless you are really good at JavaScript or something. So.
Let's work on it right after Q&A, and I can help you create a pull request and we can fix it up.
Thank you.
Back again. So I asked Jeremy this question last month, but maybe you guys could touch on this. Do you know of any resources on the web that has like a good example of a well-architected Angular app that's like not like a trivial to-do app?
There is a book by Pete Bacon-Darwin and Paweł Kozlowski, and they built something they call NG-App, which is a decent-sized issue tracker with communication to GitHub. You can take a look at that one. We're also working on a style guide. If you search for John Papa and style guide, Yeah, so John Papa and Todd Motto, they are working on merging the two style guides that are out there into one. And once that is done, we're going to do one more pass through it and then just accept it as the official style guide for Angular. So that's going to help. And for 2.0, there's going to be much more stuff that is going to be built by our team as the reference for you guys. So.
The names again?
Todd Motto, M-O-T-T-O.
And John Papa. What was the first?
Oh, that was Pete Bacon Darwin. He's the team lead on 1X right now, and he wrote a book. I forget what the book name is, but just search for his name, like Bacon and Angular, and you'll find him. I think NG book is by Ari. That's a different book. No, I don't know who's the publisher. I can't remember right now. Pete Bacon Darwin.
Well, I have one question for Voight Out. So I have thousands of tests, and Karma is fantastic. I love it. But I want sharding. So
send the pull request.
When is it gonna be available? Because I saw a demo like 2013, like more than a year ago, and I've been waiting for the pull request.
Yeah, that demo was to motivate people to make it happen. But unfortunately, my talk was probably not that good because it didn't motivate anybody. No, there are many people at Google interested in this, so we should probably talk about it and make it happen. Sharing, basically splitting your huge test suite into multiple groups of tests so that you can run it in parallel. You know, let's say you have 5,000 tests, so you can run it on 5 browsers and it's going to be faster.
So I have another question. With Google's purchase of Firebase, is there going to be a tighter integration in the future? Or is Firebase going to influence the Angular project more with how you deal with data? Or no?
We didn't purchase them. It wasn't like Angular buying Firebase. They are part of the cloud infrastructure team, and we had several discussions with them about what we could do better. So there is ongoing communication going on, but like, yes, we want the story to be good, but we like from the very beginning, Angular was very agnostic from backends. So like, you don't need to expect, or you shouldn't expect from us that Firebase is going to be the only backend that Angular will support in the future. It might get better, but it's never going to be the only backend.
All right, I think we could do 1 or 2 more questions if you want to take this rare opportunity. Anybody else? Okay, well.
Do you guys have any plans to write a converter or some kind of a tool from TypeScript to AdScript? Because we currently we use TypeScript for our application that we use TypeScript to develop AngularJS applications. And we recently learned about AdScript, and we were thinking if we have to upgrade, what are the ways to do it? And do you guys have any suggestions how to do it?
So we're working with the TypeScript guys, and one of the goals is to make TypeScript a superset of ES6, which it currently is not, but they are working on making it. And once that happens, which should be soon, but they need to make, like, I'm not here to talk about their roadmap, but they publicly talk about that. That's their plan. Once that happens, TypeScript will be subset of AdScript, which that means for you that any TypeScript code that you will write with the TypeScript that is compatible with ES6 will be compatible with TypeScript. So there's a little bit of massaging that needs to happen, but general direction is complete compatibility.
And actually, like Angular 1x or even the future Angular 2, like you're not tied to AdScript. You can write it in regular JavaScript, and so you can write it in TypeScript. You can just keep using TypeScript. That's fine. Like you don't have to migrate to anything.
Okay,
that's good. Thanks.
Okay, one more question. All right.
Hi guys. I was just wondering if Angular is planning to bring into the Angular ecosystem. Are you guys planning to bring in how do we query data structures on client side? Something that Breeze.js is doing it. So are you guys happy with us using the combination of Angular and Breeze, or are you guys planning to bring something similar to that into the ecosystem? Because I love being in the Angular ecosystem, and then I have to use Breeze. So, yep. Well.
So Breeze is pretty good. I saw some demos and it looked very solid. I never used it myself, so that's as much as I can tell you about it. But from what I've seen, it looked pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, are you guys like, yeah.
For Angular 1x, we don't have any plans. For Angular 2, we want to see what we can do better to integrate with Breeze or some other data stores. Right now we're focusing primarily on the templating and web components and like very core stuff. This is kind of outside of the core still, so we didn't get to it. But it's too early to tell. But our goal is just to make things that work today better in Angular 2.
I mean, I think it's cool if you're using Breeze. That's fine. Like our job is to make it easy for you to use Angular with Breeze. I don't think it's fine.
All right, I think that about wraps up the Q&A. So we're going to be here until 8 o'clock, just wandering around, answering your questions, helping you out. So just grab us.
Thank you.
Thank you.